Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Today, I'd like to title this segment, A Closer Look at the Book Called the Bible, in the front and out the back. Once again, the title of this segment, A Closer Look at the Book Called the Bible, in the front and out the back. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Before we start this segment, I want you to take a very close look at something. I want you to look closely at the girth of this book. This right here is what's commonly referred to as the New Testament. This right here is commonly referred to as the Old Testament. These are two entirely separate books. Now, some say there's 66 books, some say there are 80 books, etc. What you have here are two books. That's it. What you have are two books. The first, the Book of Remembrance. The latter, the New Testament. As you all know by now, that a testimony or a testament is truth. And you should all be aware that truth cannot be changed. You should also be well aware that the Most High changes not. His words are perpetual. They cannot be changed or overridden by anyone. So when you keep those two things in mind, then you can come to this book with some kind of compass and understanding of how to navigate around it. Now, let's discuss the first part. Commonly, the first book, known as the Book of Remembrance, correct name, or those, and some may refer to it as the Old Testament. The Old Testament, the Book of Remembrance. What is it? As you already know, a testimony cannot be old. A testimony cannot be new. A testimony is truth. Truth does not change. It's the one thing in the earth that can actually transcend time, past, present, and future. And it cannot be changed. That is truth. And truth is of the Most High. Now, starting off with the Book of Remembrance. What do we have here? What this book consists of, it is based on a specific being, a God, if you will, the God of the whole earth. He had chosen a specific people to bring forth his righteousness upon all the other nations of the earth. Those who he have chosen has fallen away. They have turned contrary to what he has instructed them to do. Now, this God in the front of this book, he is very precise. He is very exact. He is very organized. He's very about what he's saying. You will either follow him or pay the consequences for not doing so. Their rewards and their punishments. He is very forgiving as well. When dealing with his people, he has chosen a specific people to bring forth his righteousness to the nations. All the words of this God have been given to his people from the very beginning. And this was done because he predicted and let his people know through his prophets of everything that he would do and everything that would befall his people from the beginning to the end. So this God in the front, the creator, he lays out, spells out specifically what the end result is going to be from the very front. That way, those of his people who will be seeking after his holiness, after his name, they will know clearly when it's him and when it's not him, because he has certain protocols. There are certain guidelines in which you have to follow, and he has a certain way of how he does things. Nothing that he does is off the cuff. So the Book of Remembrance, clearly this God in the front, he has chosen a specific group of people and separated them from everyone else. He made those people his priests. He made those people his sons and daughters. And anyone else that tried to do harm to his people, he protected them, because his people are his firstborn. And when the Pharaoh tried to do harm and enslave the firstborn of this creator, the creator, what he did to Egypt and the Egyptians, he killed all of their firstborn. That way, when the people of the earth read this book, they will know clearly who the firstborn of the creator is. They will know exactly who his sons and daughters are, and they should know, hear, and fear for what he has done to those who have enslaved his sons and his daughters and prevented them, the Israelites, from serving him, their creator. So this book lays out exactly all the commandments that this God expects his sons and daughters, his chosen people, to follow. A few of his criteria, i.e. protocols, he made it plain to his people, not the whole world, to his people, that he is one. He made that very clear. He made it clear that his people shall not serve any idols, wood, or stone. He specifically prepared a place for his people, currently known as the land of Israel. In the times of old, it was known as the land of Canaan. He had prepared a place for them, guided them through the wilderness, and gave specific instructions, specific commandments to them that they should obey while in the wilderness, which is a staging ground, or was a staging ground for them to enter into the quote unquote promised land that he had prepared for them. Those who failed to follow his instructions, they were killed, and they were not allowed to enter into the land. However, their children were spared, and their children, along with Joshua and Caleb, were allowed to go into this land. Now, prior to going into the land, they were given certain instructions that they were to follow the Most High with their whole heart and their whole soul. They were not to intermingle and marry in mixed seed with the nations that were round about them and that dwelt within that land. They were also, once they entered into that land, they were not to inquire, they were not to ask or to seek out how the inhabitants of the land before them served their gods or their idols. It was strictly given to them, to the house of Israel, by this God in the front, that if you walk contrary to my law, I will uproot you out of my land. This God made it plain in the front that that land was his, and that we were nothing but sojourners with him in his land. Should we walk contrary to his instruction in his land, that the land was programmed to spew us out. And he made it plain exactly what would happen to us should we walk contrary to any of the instructions that we were given in the wilderness prior to entering into that land. Now, so we have laid the groundwork that the Creator has chosen a specific group of people, gave them some specific instructions, have redeemed them from a nation. That way it is clearly established between him and those people that those people are his. And it's also clearly established between him and the other nations that the children of Israel are his. And that's why we have Passover. Now, the Most High does nothing unless he reveals it to his prophets first. Before he does anything, this God of this book in the front, before he does anything, he first reveals it to his prophets. Why does he do this? He does this to validate that he is exactly who he says he is. That way, you have a record, a track record of what he has said. That way, when you see it, you can bear witness that his words are true. So he does nothing off of the cuff, no spur of the moment, anything. That's why the Most High said clearly, I woke up. He was waking up early and sending his prophets to warn the children of Israel. He doesn't fire off the cuff. Your instructions and warnings are given to you prior to that end result, which is judgment for your errors. So clearly the children of Israel were given these instructions. They were sent, they were able to go into the land. And the Most High made it plain exactly what his laws were and how we were to conduct ourselves within the parameters of his borders. We had what were known as rules and regulations, code of conduct. There are known as statutes, laws, judgments, and precepts. And right now, the children of Israel that's been scattered throughout the whole earth, and we'll get to that in a minute, they have no such thing. They have no code of conduct by which they live by. And they're trying to create their own, unbeknownst to them, that all of our code of conduct is sitting right here in the book of the law. And they're unaware of that. Now, the children of Israel are in the land. All the protocols have been given to us in the wilderness. We have received the Most High's instruction on exactly how we are to conduct ourselves in the land. He made it clear that once we got into that land, that he would give us blessings. And he lists all the blessings that we would receive. And he made it plain that once we have received the blessings, then we would corrupt ourselves. And we would start worshiping the idols of the nations. We will then turn away from him who has redeemed us and showed us all of these wonderful things coming through the wilderness and has sustained us. We will turn our backs upon him and we will start worshiping the gods of the other nations, gods of wood and stone. We will turn to idolatry and we will take the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts and we will chuck it behind our back. So before we even did all of these things, he had laid it out before us aforetime to let us know clearly exactly what we're going to do. So this strong one, this God in the front, he can see the future, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So he laid out clearly the things that his people would do, that we would get in this land and walk contrary to his law. And he also laid out specifically, once we did this, exactly what he would do and exactly how he was going to do it. Upon entering the land, should we walk contrary to the law, he would uproot us out of the land because we are nothing but sojourners with him on his land. And you can't stay on the land of the landlord and not obey his rules. So we refuse to follow the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And he stated clearly through his prophets that once we did this, he would spew us out. He would kick us out into the many nations. And while we were in these nations, we would have no ease. We would find no ease. We would find no rest. We would find no peace. We would find no justice. We would find absolutely no equity. Because we sought that which was not righteous. The Most High's law is righteousness. We threw that away and took a hold of vanity of the nations. And since we did this, we were scattered into the many nations of the earth, who knew not the Most High. They don't know righteousness, don't know what it is. and they will not know it until the children of Israel teach it to them. So here we are in these many nations. Now, the creator in the front of this book made plain that we would be scattered into these many nations, our names removed, our heritage removed, and discontinued. We would be walking around deaf and blind, fatness on our hearts, would not be able to understand. We are pretty much dummies, walking dead in the midst of the nations. And if you look at the condition of our people today, you can clearly understand exactly that is what has transpired, because what we're experiencing is a global phenomenon. Our people are being treated in the same manner by the same group of people everywhere. It's not just in one nation. So once kicked out, he laid out exactly what our curses would be. That way, we can go into this book of remembrance. Once he has brought us to remembrance, we can look at what he has said in the days of old. And we can see if any of that matches up today. Because once he wakes us up and put his spirit upon us, whatever it is we read, he said clearly that the children of Israel are his witnesses. So we are his sons and daughters. We are his saints. We are also his witness, which means we have to be able to see his word with our own eyes, regardless of what year it is that he brings us to remembrance. So we were scattered into these nations, and he lists in Deuteronomy 28 all the curses that would befall us as we endure the many punishments of our oppressors and our enemies in the many nations. Now, once again, he gives us the end and the beginning, so there's no guesswork for the children of Israel. Not only did he give us curses and scattered us to the four corners of the earth and put these sore judgments upon us and sent evil after us, he also made it plain to us with no uncertain terms of how we are to relieve ourselves from the quagmire that we're in. In other words, we were given the cause and effect. Clearly, he stated that the law was our life, and it was not a vain thing. This law will prolong our days. This law is also our wisdom to the nations, which means the children of Israel, once we have been brought to remembrance, we will be teaching this law. We will be teaching this righteousness, and we will be teaching this not only to the children of Israel, we will be teaching this to the many nations of the earth. And through the Most High Spirit upon the sons and daughters of the children of Israel, and as we go into this word and decipher it and teach it to the nations will clearly realize that these are the people of the Most High. They will also acknowledge that they have been fed lies. That has not happened as of yet. So we were given these curses, and you can read those in Deuteronomy chapter 28. And we were also giving a means and ways to which we can return and reconcile ourselves back onto the Most High and his laws by doing that which is right in his sight. That is mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 30. So we were told that we'd walk after these many idols, wood and stone, that we will take a hold of vanity, and that we will walk after the many nations that's around us, that we would be taken into these many nations, and we would start to serve their gods. We are mixing in the midst of these people. We're mixing seed with them. We're doing all the things that we were instructed not to do. Now, upon entering these many lands, we were told before we were scattered, the very last instruction that we were given, remember the laws of my servant Moses. All the prophets reminded us over and over again of the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and that we were not to turn from the left hand to the left hand or to the right hand, that we will walk the straight and narrow way of the Most High's commandments. Upon getting into the land, we have clear instruction. Upon getting into these many lands, we have clear instruction on how to return back unto the Most High via his law. We have clear instruction on what direction we were to pray when we enter the lands of our enemies and when we're being brought to remembrance. We have clear instructions on how to look at another Israelite and to identify whether he is serving the Creator or whether he's serving him not. We were given clear instruction on how many temples the Most High had. And we were instructed clearly on where that temple was located. And we were instructed clearly on exactly what happened to it and why. Now, once we've gained all of this information, understanding clearly who we are, that's number one, where we are, why we are here, and how we are to get out of the mess that we're in, all of this is laid out for us specifically in the Book of Remembrance. This Creator in the front, the God in the front, is so about it and is so a matter of fact that he states to the sons and daughters of Israel, he made plain to us that upon me scattering you to these nations, call upon the gods that you serve and see if they will help you. We have been in these nations for many years, calling upon JC and whomever else, and none of it has worked. So he's repaying us to our face, letting us know, I've told you that I'm one, and that's it. There's none besides me. So you calling on any other idol, or on any idol, period, because the Most High is not an idol. You call on any idol, and you continue to walk contrary to my instruction, I will punish you 7 times more. He's made this very clear. Not only is the punishment from one person to the next, these are generational curses. For as long as we continue to be in this behavior, this affects ourselves, our houses, and our children. So everything is laid out for us on exactly who we are, what has happened to us, and why. So here you have a God who has a group of people. These people disobeyed their God. Their God punished them. But while he is punishing them, he has also left them information on how they can be returned and reconciled back unto him. He lays out in no uncertain terms that he will not allow his people to be like other nations, that he will break them of that habit, and that he will rule over them with a stretched out arm, which means no matter what we do, we're not going to be allowed to worship JC and any of these other idols of these nations. He's going to break us of that. So with the punishments, even though the God of the first book and the only book, the Book of Remembrance, even though he's punishing his people and he has scattered them to the many nations, he said, though I'm doing this, yet will I be a sanctuary unto you. Meaning, in spite of all the foul that the house of Israel has done, he will still give them some bit of relief. And that is the extension of his mercy. Now, upon them being scattered into these many lands, he left them mercy. He left them grace. His grace and his mercy is extended through his law. Once again, the grace and mercy of the strong one, the God of Israel, is extended through his law. The law is the glue that holds the 12 tribes of Israel together. Remove that glue, being the law, and the 12 tribes will fall apart. The whole nation will be destroyed and uprooted. So he made it clear in no uncertain terms, If you follow this law, you remain in this land. You will be under my protection. You will be the head of all nations. I will protect you and I will guide you, and you will be fruitful, and your years will be prolonged, and all of these nations will fear you, and that which you have, they will not even have the desire to want it, because you will be protected, or we would have been protected by the Most High. And so therefore the nations would fear the children of Israel, because the Most High is our deliverer and our Savior, and he was going to protect us should we walk in his law. Failure to do that got us where we are today, kicked out for serving idols and images and taking hold of something that we were not given at the first. So when you look at this, what you call the Old Testament, there can be no such thing as an Old Testament. The Most High's words does not become old. They do not become new. They are unchangeable. If the Most High is going to mention something that's new, he's going to bring it through his prophets first. And if you do not read of something being new that comes specifically out of the mouth of a prophet, it was not sent, spoken of, or done by the strong one or the God of the house of Israel that's in the very front of this book. So you stay in the land in the front. You keep the protections of the Most High in the front. You walk in the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and his righteousness in the front. All the prophets of the Most High, which he spoke with mouth to mouth and gave direct instructions to, some of whom saw him, some who just heard his voice, they're in the front. All the instructions that were ever given to the children of Israel pertaining to the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, they're in the front. To get kicked out of the land, you're going to have to follow anything that's in the back. Say that again. The laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High, his prophets, his laws, all of his protocols, all of his rules and regulations pertaining to his people, specifically his people, not everyone else, his people, they are written in the front. You want to live long, it's written in the front. You want the blessings, it's in the front. You want to remain in the Most High's land, it's in the front. You want to have his protection, it's in the front. You want the nations to fear you, it's in the front. If you want to be kicked out of the land, if you want the nations to spit upon you, if you want to be slaves in the midst of the nations, if you want your heritage removed, your names removed, your language removed, and you want to be serving gods of wood and stone, going into temples in many different nations that the Most High have not laid his name, then what you do, you follow everything that's in the back. In the front, out the back. The choice that we have taken is out the back. And we already know there's nothing good in the back. Everything is up front. The Most High is very specific. I give you the end in the beginning. So therefore, we cannot say our idols have done it. The Most High is so about this book and so direct through his prophets to his people. He made it plain. Go and show me where any of your idols declared anything from the beginning. And let me say that again. The Creator, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in the front, made clear to the children of Israel and to any other nation, the Most High wants them to go in the front of this book and show where their idol declared anything. Can you go into the front of this book, into the book of the law and the prophets, and show me anywhere where JC ever declared anything? Can you do that? Can you even find the name JC in here? You know his full name. It's an idol. So we are to pay attention to what was given to us at the front, in the front. For in the latter days, everything will be returned. Our judges will be restored as at the first, that's the front, and everything else, from our temple to our sacrifices, to our Levites, to the sons of David sitting on a throne. All of those things will be restored as in the days of old. So, in this book of remembrance, there are a group of people who have had their memories removed and their heritage removed, and they have been scattered throughout many nations, speaking all types of strange languages that are not theirs. They're living in countries where they have not made any of the rules, any of the laws. They have no place in government. They have no say-so to protect themselves or to protect the group of them as a whole. They are like vagabonds in the midst of the nations. No one cares for them. Everyone takes advantage of them, and no one stands up for them. And these are the children of Israel, based on the curses that we have seen laid out. So that is what you have up front. You have up front a God that has chosen specific people who have walked contrary to his law. And he has extended mercy to them for them to return unto his law. And once they do that, all the curses of that was placed upon them will be placed upon those who have abused them. And the end result of the relationship of this God and his people is that he will return his people back to the head of all nations. And all the nations that serve themselves of them, of the children of Israel, have abused, robbed, and mistreated the children of Israel. All those nations will serve the children of Israel, just as the children of Israel have served these nations. In all of these nations that walk in the ways of the heathen, they will all have to go up and serve this one God that has this one house in this one place. They will all have to go up there and serve him. They will have to go up there once a year. All the nations will have to send representatives up there. The males of the sons of Israel will have to go up before him 3 times a year. So this God in the front makes it plain that his people and other people are entirely different. We are not the same. And the people that was given these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts are his people, the children of Israel. And that's who you're going to see teaching this word to Israel and to the Gentiles. And as we translate this word, explain it, teach it, and magnify it, it will become clear that we are indeed those special people. We are indeed the people of this book as we begin to turn to the Most High with our whole heart and our whole soul and be brought to remembrance. So that is a general summary of what this first book is about. It's about a God whose people, whose sons and daughters were disobedient to him. He punished them, he scattered them, he stripped them, he humbled them, he drug them through the nations, put them at the bottom of the barrel for a time. And then he poured his spirit upon them. He left a book of remembrance for them to be able to read and understand and connect the dots to exactly who they are and what has happened to them. And he laid out the blueprint on exactly how they can change their entire circumstances. And they will change their circumstances. And he will redeem them from the bottom of the barrel. And he will place them back at the head of all nations. And those who have abused them will be put in their place. And that sums up the Book of Remembrance. One God, one set of rules that does not change. One specific group of people chosen for a specific task. Once his rules are broken, there are punishments for it. And no one gets a pass. And this is Yah, the strong one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a specific family. From one generation to the next generation to the next generation, a bloodline of people to whom this Creator gave his laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And this is the only family and the only people that he have ever stated that he loved. Very specific. A document written to a very specific group of people, not to everyone else. So this is what you have in your Book of Remembrance. This is where you will find the law and the prophets. All the prophets of the Most High is in the front. All his laws are in the front. And that's one book. Now, let's address the thin part of this thing. The second part. Remember, in the front, and you're going out the back. So let's go in the back, see what goes on in the back. Once you've finished Malachi chapter 4, and the Most High remind you once again to remember the laws of Moses, right before you got the boot, give you one last time, hey, remember this law. Now here we have something totally new. The New Testament, new truth. Well, we already know the truth doesn't get old, new, and it doesn't get different. It actually transcends the three spaces of time, past, present, and future. There is no such thing as a New Testament. If we consider the name of this thing, we know it is false, for the simple fact that the Most High instructed the children of Israel in the front. We were told from the beginning that we were not to add or subtract. If we have something new, certainly there's been an addition to it, and therefore it is void. Now, as I look through, I'm just turning to the first page of this thing, because that's what it is. It states here, the gospel according to St. Matthew. Now, I'm not gonna read any of this nonsense. So we have here, I'm going to look through some of the books. We have St. Luke, St. Luke, St. Mark. Let me see what we have here. St. John. And then we go into Acts and all this other madness is back here. All right. Let's address this book called the New Testament. First of all, let's make it clear that the children of Israel were cast out. We had no access to printing presses. Our names and our heritage were removed. We don't know who we are. Many of us still do not. We speak the languages of our enemies, and we have taken a hold and customs of our enemies. We don't know who we are, many of us, and the nations don't know who we are, because the Creator said in the beginning, in the front, that he would cause the memory of the children of Israel to cease from among men. Now, so we have been conquered. Someone got a hold of our scrolls when we were conquered, took a hold of our scrolls and rewrote them and plagiarized them and came up with something that's totally new, as we were warned by the Most High's prophet Moses, that we were taking a hold of something new, new gods, newly raised up, whom our forefathers did not know, have not known. So, there's something called the Protestant Reformation. I would like you all to understand clearly that when you look at the many governments of the earth, especially the European governments, You've got them. I'm going to name a few: France, Germany, England, America, the Netherlands, Spain. You can go ahead and name them. Italy. You name those European nations. Many of them. They're responsible for the enslavement and the abuse of the children of Israel throughout the earth. For the raping, the pillaging, the murdering, and the lying too of the children of Israel. These nations speak many different languages. Most of them fly the same color flags. These are the same people. Now, though they speak different languages and they may claim to have a different system of government, their government is the same. Their government is that of the Roman establishment. And that goes for Germany, Spain, the Netherlands, France, Italy, and all these other European conquerors of our people. They are all under the Roman guidance. Catholicism, commonly known as Christianity. Now, the Romans ruled out of Constantinople. This is Turkey. You may want to believe that America and Russia are enemies. You may want to believe that. They fly the same colors on their flag. When lands are being divvied up and deals are being made for who gets what, i.e. the Berlin Conference, all of these European powers are sitting there doing this. They're not an Israelite or a man that looks like me nowhere in sight. These nations are in cahoots. Psalms 83, against the most high hidden ones. That's the children of Israel. They're all in cahoots against us. I want you to understand that in Russia, you have the Christian Orthodox Church. They still have to report to Constantinople, which is Turkey. They still have to do that today. Today. Now, as we deal with this New Testament, we have to go back to Rome. We have to go back to the Roman triumvirate. We have to go back to the Roman leaders who made themselves gods. To Constantine, who legalized quote unquote Christianity. No such thing before these Romans came into being. So here we have been conquered, and now we have something that's totally new. When you go through the Book of Remembrance, there are powerful prophets here. You have some men who wore both hats. They were priests and prophets. And you have governors who were very powerful and beloved by the Most High. You can't find not one of them being addressed as a saint in here. Now, back to this New Testament. The Roman Catholic Church had a split in it, known as the Protestant Reformation. And when a church has a split, it's over one or two things or both. That would be power and that would be money. Power, money, meaning control and spendability, budget, money. So the Protestant broke away from the Roman Catholic Church. Now, the Protestants are nothing but the many different branches of the Roman Catholic Church. These many different branches, the name of these branches is called Christianity. And you have many different factions and or denominations of Christianity. They are nothing but surrogates of the Roman Catholic Church. It's all in this one and the same. When these nations have major wars and major disputes, do they go sit down with the Baptist church? Do their leaders go see the Baptist church? How about the Seventh-day Adventist church? They don't. These world leaders, they go sit down with the Pope because the governments of these nations are Christian governments and they are ran by Rome. You don't have to believe that. I'm just telling you. So they are all Christian. All of these European nations are. They may believe in a different brand of Christianity, denomination from here to there, but they all subscribe to Christianity, which is nothing but Roman Catholicism. And that's why when they make moves, wars, and have disputes, they sit down and talk to that Roman Catholic Pope, because it is his government and his laws that runs these nations pertaining to, i.e., the Christian nations. And the Most High allowed this thing for the simple fact that we were given laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts at the first that were good, and we refused them. So what happened now is we were given laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts that are not good. And that's what we see in these many nations. So now, here we are dealing with these Romans. We're conquered, we're kicked out, we're scattered, names removed. They have gone through the text. They have taken the text and they have polluted it, came up with their own book. Nope, no more will we turn to this old thing. This is old. Don't regard this. Let's not go in the back and deal with something absolutely new that no one's ever heard of. So we have all these different saints, saint this, saint that, saint that. There you cannot find in Matthew nowhere, in all of our prophets and all the many names that you could find in Numbers, in Genesis, and throughout all the books. None of our ancestors ever named themselves. You can't find a Luke in here, can't find a Matthew in here, can't find a Mark nowhere in sight. These are names of Europeans. This book is written by the Roman Catholic Church. So they have caused themselves to take the place of the children of Israel. They have created an idol called JC. And they're saying in the back of this book that that is the Son of God, which is blasphemous, because the Most High made it clear in the front through his prophets when he directly addressed the children of Israel that he was one out of his own mouth. But the Romans, who know not Yah, who could care less about his laws, have written something totally contradictory and put it in another book called a New Testament, and have put it in the back and have disannulled everything that's up in the front. None of these people in the back are prophets of the Most High. None of them has said anything that we have not heard from the prophets in the days of old. This is something totally new. It is something totally foreign, and it is something that contradicts every word of the Most High. The Savior and the Lord, the Savior in the back of this book, his name is JC. No prophet in the front ever mentioned him. The Most High said he is the only Savior. Most High said there's no God besides him. The God of Israel said if there's a God besides him, he doesn't even know who that is. So when you subscribe to this thing called the New Testament, you're subscribing to something that God himself said, hey, look, any other God beside me, I don't even know who that is. But it was foretold by the prophets of the God of Israel that this thing would occur, that we would take a hold of vanity and started to serve wood and stone, the God of these many nations. So once we look into the Roman Catholicism, and then we start looking at the Protestant Reformation of how the Christian churches came into being, then all of this begins to make sense of how they would print up the Most High's word and sell it. You got to buy a Bible. You got to buy this thing. But the Most High stuck true to his word by ensuring that a book of remembrance was left for those of his people that would call upon his name. So it's intact. All the information that we need to know is still where it's supposed to be, in the front, because we are the leaders of the earth, and the leader is up front, and that's where we're supposed to be. You go in the back, you're going to get ousted. Okay, you go out the back. We don't want to do that. Now, as we see clearly here with all these different, these are not prophets. I want to see the different prophets. These are not prophets. These are men that's within the Roman Catholic Church, that's professing that which is Roman. What have these Romans done? These Romans have gone into the text. They have created what they would call an appearance of God, i.e., this JC figure that you see people will kiss, do the sign of the cross, got it in their house, bow down and worship. This is an idol, a work of man's hands. This is an error. So they've created that thing and presented it before the children of Israel and the people of the earth. They have built churches. You can find one on every block if you go into the places where the children of Israel lives. They have these statues everywhere and worship after these idols. They have countered everything that the Most High has presented to the children of Israel at the first. Most High has holy days. They have holidays. It's a play on that. And if you have not gone into the Book of Remembrance and you have not removed the idol out of your heart, you will not be able to see that. They will baptize their children onto this idol. We can go to the front in the very first and only book, the Book of Remembrance, and we cannot see no place in this book where a Levite, the priest of the Most High, from Aaron to any of his sons, has ever baptized anyone. And I mean absolutely never. It has never happened. So to do a baptism is to turn your child over to idols. It is something that has never been done before. We have not heard of it. It is unheard of. And the Most High reveals his secrets to his servants, the prophets. There's nothing new. All the prophets have brought you the same information. There is no prophet in the book of this law, in this Torah, that is contradicting the Most High or speaking contrary to another prophet. It's not in here. In the back, things are a bit different. In the back, they're saying now that JC is the Son of God. God never said that. Now everyone is worshiping the Son in the back. Now, speaking of this Son worship, these Romans have changed times and laws, or sought to. So now, the Most High commanded in the front, the first month of the year is Abib. These Romans have changed around the months and have named the months after their idols, have named the days of the week after their idols and their abominations. So even though we don't want to mention the name JC because we know it's an idol and we're commanded not to do it, if we just want to say what day tomorrow is, we have got to bring up the names of these Roman idols. They have changed the days of the week. They have changed the months of the year in order to confuse the children of Israel primarily and to confuse the people of the earth. So these individuals in the back, these saints, the saints, the true saints, are the children of Israel, are the people of the Most High. These people in the back, these saints, Luke, Mark, Larry, Willie, Billy, and Bobby, these are Europeans. These are Romans. We are a totally separate people from these Romans. We are not to walk after the way of these Romans. Romans are Christians. All of those who are in Christianity, it is nothing but a spin-off of Roman Catholicism. It is paganism at best and an abomination at worst. And it counters all and is contrary to all that the Creator has given to us in the front. So if we continue to go out the back, we're going to continue to get exactly what we're getting. We are to lead the earth. That is our job. We're to teach the Most High's righteousness. You can't do that in the back. You have to do that up front. A leader leads from the front, not from the back and not from the side. You go into this book and you read all sorts of things pertaining to other people. You see, there's a trick being played on the children of Israel where in the front of the book, the Most High is speaking very specifically to a very specific group of people, a very specific bloodline, one man and his children throughout the generations. Now, when you go into this book, when these Romans got this book, they realized clearly that, hey, this stuff don't pertain to us at all. So what we have to do is we're going to insert ourselves in it. So they created their own book, is what they've done, and presented God in an image that looks like one of them. Something that we were strictly commanded that we should not do. But they have done that in taking the Most High's words, twisting it, changing it, adding to it, and subtracting from it. They've done all of the above. So these Romans, you are to be wary of them and everything that they have placed in print. But the only way you're going to know that this thing is nothing but a lie, you first must know exactly what truth is, what righteousness is. These Romans, this book of the back, these people are your enemies. And they are also the enemies unto the Most High. So they're the enemy of the Most High, and they're the enemy of the Most High's people. And you can read of them in Psalms 83. Let's look at some of the things from the back of this book. Most High instructed the children of Israel to keep the 7-day Sabbath. We're not to buy and sell. Every man is to remain in his dwelling on the Sabbath day. Let no man leave out of his place on the Sabbath day. Let no man work on the Sabbath day. You're to be at home at rest. Christians don't follow this. Never have. Never will. For they teach that the law is done away with and someone already came and fulfilled the law for you. Someone came and died for you. If you read the Most High's law, Deuteronomy 24 verse 16, Ezekiel chapter 18, it's made plain to everyone that no one can ever die for you. So they're speaking something that's contrary to the instruction from the Most High himself in this book called the New Testament. You're able to just dip in some water and be forgiven. This is contrary to the laws of the Book of Remembrance that the Most High specifically laid out. When you die in this New Testament, they're saying that you're going to heaven. You can find no such thing. You could look at when Moshe died and any other prophet or any of our governors or any of our priests. You will never see anyone dying and going to heaven in the book of the law, the Torah. You will never see that. However, the Christians, the Romans who conquered the children of Israel, that's what they teach. And we are the ones believing that because we have been so hopeless and our knowledge and wisdom has been removed. We are to the point to where we are so defeated in our minds that we will believe almost anything and we will believe almost anyone. But those days are coming to an end, and quickly, because the Most High is beginning to show us the contradictions and the lies of this book called the New Testament. As we continue to look into this thing, it speaks clearly of, oh, there's a judgment day coming. Well, you can't have judgment day unless you have law. And that's very simple. So if your idol did away with the law, and the law is no longer your schoolmaster, how could you possibly have a judgment day? It's impossible. So this book is a book that's printed up by Europeans. I'm going to be very clear about that. It is a lie. It is contrary to all the laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High. They don't, they say clearly they don't have to obey the law. It was never given to them. It was never given to them in the first place. And if you look at the behavior of these Romans, you will see clearly. You take this standard, the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and you put it up against these European nations, and they don't follow none of it. Absolutely none of it. In fact, they are so foul and they are so hypocritical. If you took the stuff that they said they believe in this New Testament and their JC that they made up, and you take that and put it up against them, they don't follow that. So this book of remembrance is the main book to be read. This is the only book that matters. This is a book of law, a book of discipline, a book of order, a book of a specific people. You go in this back book, there's no order. There's no discipline. You can do what you want. And this book, all of a sudden, in the back called the New Testament, it addresses everybody. The person that's God back here, he know everybody. He loves everybody. You can sin as much as you want. And you just got to get on your knees, do the sign of the cross, and you'll be forgiven. The son back here, this God back here, whomever that is, his son died for you on a cross. But when you go into the book of the law and the prophets in the front, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob makes it plain that anyone that dies on a cross is accursed of him. Totally contradictory to what this New Testament is saying. And all these saints, anyone in the Catholic Church, they're saints. That's what they call them. A saint is specifically of the children of Israel. Catholic Church, very few Israelites in there. They have a pope. This pope and these other idolatrous males that are homosexuals and pedophiles in this Catholic Church do not marry. You cannot be a priest of the Most High unless your father was a priest before you. The priesthood is a bloodline of the sons of Aaron. These men are not that. Most High has never had a house called the Vatican. Never had a house in Rome. To determine who the high priest would be, Most High didn't say anything about lighting no smoke and taking a vote. And the priest, the high priest of the Most High, has never come from a variety of different nations. You look at the history of these popes, you got popes from all type of different, one from Germany, one from France, one from Poland, one from, let me tell you something. Most High's high priest is of one bloodline, and that is the bloodline of the sons of Aaron. And he is an Israelite, and that's it. And the Most High's priests are allowed to marry. So when you look at the Catholic Church, its surrogates are the Christian churches in their many denominations. The Catholic Church today is still the most powerful church on the earth. And they control the governments of the earth, especially European ones. And when they start making moves, they contact the Vatican. And when they start making deals, the Vatican is involved in that, because that wickedness has been spread throughout all the earth, and the children of Israel has been caught up in it. So you're to take heed, read carefully what truth is. Read carefully what righteousness is. It's all in the front. Some of you have started in the back. I've said in many videos before, no one has ever read a book starting in the back. You've never read to your child and start in the back of a book. They have made it their business, the Romans. They have made it their business to keep the children of Israel out of the front of this book and told us to go in the back. What are the benefits of these foul, vile Romans who know not the Most High, can care less about his laws? What are the benefits of them doing that? All right. If we continue to walk after the ways of these foul individuals in the back, we become more and more estranged from the Most High. He does not fight for us, and we remain in the condition that we're in, on the foot of these many nations. Keep in mind the Roman Catholic Church. If you're going to speak of reparations, the Roman Catholic Church owe, quote unquote, the House of Israel or black people trillions of dollars. They commissioned slavery, the Pope himself. And the governments of these many nations answered to that Pope and subscribed to his religious doctrine, whether it be Catholicism in name or Christianity in name. Same thing. The biggest hindrance to the children of Israel is idolatry, and that is Christianity. Christianity is nothing but idolatry. If we are to walk after the laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High that is clearly listed out for us in the front, a few things are going to happen that these Romans don't want to see happen. The Most High made it clear that he will take all the curses that's upon the children of Israel and put it upon their enemies. We know clearly the Romans have been our enemies, and those who subscribe to anything Roman, they have been enemies unto us. This book in the back teaches us to turn the other cheek, the children of Israel, to be kicked in the face, and for us to actually suffer in this life and wait for a reward in heaven. These Romans, these European nations, if you attack France today, Germany is coming, Australia is coming, all America is coming. All these other European nations will bomb you, will starve you with sanctions, etc. They're all in confederate against you, Israel, and you haven't noticed that as of yet. There is no talk of forgiveness when anything is done to these Europeans. They are hypocrites. They are vile. They know not the Most High's law. However, the children of Israel, we can be kicked in the teeth and be treated harshly. And if we decide to speak on it, we are condemned for it. Or if we even decide to retaliate once we are being mistreated, there's a problem. We're supposed to forgive. You're supposed to kill our children, and we're supposed to hug you. This is the doctrine and the foolishness that they have taught in the back and placed in the back and printed in the back. But this is not for their sakes. This was done for the children of Israel because we were the ones suffering on the foot. So this was not for their sake. They didn't have to worry about turning the other cheek for anything. They are in charge. They are running the nations and doing the foul things to us. This was written specifically to keep us off track and to keep us from the front, because this man would not give you anything that will be to your benefit. All the laws in the nation in which the children of Israel dwell, these laws were designed to keep the children of Israel on the foot. Our enemies have not done anything that has been to our benefit or to the benefit of our children. It's against their best interest. And that is why they came up with this book, to keep us lost, to keep us confused. And they do not want us in this book, because in this book of remembrance, Because then we're going to find out exactly who our God really is. We're going to find out exactly how to pray. We're going to be able to identify, okay, well, you have leprosy. There's something that you have done that has caused the Most High to plague you, because leprosy is a plague. So I start seeing you differently. I start analyzing your behavior. I start taking this law and putting up against you. And I start to go into your history and see what you have done throughout history in the many places where you have been. And then we can start to see clearly that these people of the New Testament are clearly hypocrites, and that they know not the Most High's law. They don't know what righteousness is. They don't know what equity is. That is why in the many nations where we dwell currently, after we were scattered, and we are mistreated and abused, we can't find any equity in these lands. We can't find equity from those who don't know what equity is. We can't get justice from those who don't know what justice is. We can't get righteousness from those who have never known what righteousness is and have never shown righteousness towards us. They don't know what it is. And it is our job to teach them. So this is where we start taking this law of the Most High and putting it before their face. And no, we're not going to charge them with racism. We're going to charge you with unrighteousness. We're going to charge you with being foul. We're going to charge you with not knowing what righteousness is, not knowing what justice is. And we're going to charge you with being wicked and contrary to the Most High's law. Because that's exactly what the correct charge is. So go through this book of remembrance. Read it at least 3 times in a row, back to back, at least 3. So you can clearly understand what the protocols are of this God in the front. Then you go to the back. And then you read in the back, it pertains to everybody. It is funny about our enemies. Our enemies have a certain character flaw. Number one, they're violent. They can't ever have peace. They have not known peace. That's why they're always in a perpetual state of war with other nations. Manufacture weapons of war. Talk of war. And constantly in a state of war. Because they have an insatiable appetite. It cannot be quenched. To steal, to lie, to murder, to pillage, to kill, to conquer. These are the sword carriers. That's what they do. Specialize in war and violence. That's all they know. And when you come across a man like that, he will never have peace. These nations that came up with this New Testament, they don't have peace. Look at their track record. Never have. Always in a state of war. Conquering, killing, murdering, and lying to maintain it. None of these nations that subscribe to the government of the Roman Catholic Church, and that government is known as Christianity, they cannot hold that which they have attained. They cannot keep it unless they are constantly lying, constantly changing the rules, and constantly making weapons of war by which to maintain the status quo. And that is not sustainable. They cannot maintain it with peace because they've never known peace. They cannot maintain it with equity or righteousness because they've known neither one. The only way they can maintain the grip that they have upon the people of the earth is through war, through weaponry, through murder, and lies. And we all know, according to the Creator in the very front, none of those things will stand. The wicked man will not stand. He will destroy him. So the fate of the individuals that wrote this New Testament, their fate is destruction. That's what their fate is. And any Israelite who is awakened to the fact that he's a man of Israel and take a hold of this nonsense is going to get himself destroyed. In any people that are of the nations, European nations or otherwise, and you can read this book and you can acknowledge that you have taken a hold of a lie, and you can acknowledge that your people have done foul to the children of Israel, and you can turn with your whole heart and your whole soul, admit your faults, ask for forgiveness, and turn to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, you're going to be spared for what's coming to these nations. So I always say to the stranger, do not think that because this thing has been prophesied to come onto your people, that doesn't mean it's got to come onto you. The children of Israel, we were warned years before the Babylonians came. We were warned of this, to where we had an opportunity to spare ourselves if we would only turn back. And we already know how that went. So this is a message to, number one, the Israelite, and also those that are of the nations. These are your warnings. The Most High said that the house of Israel, we will see our teachers and we will hear them, and the fatness from our hearts are going to be removed, and the blindness from our eyes and the stoppers from our ears. So you're going to hear your teachers, and we are your teachers. I'm one of them that's bringing you this law, teaching these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. You can see me clearly and you can hear me clearly. And so this is where you have to consider exactly which way that you should walk. You go into the truth, read that, decipher it. That is the Book of Remembrance. I don't want to encourage anyone to go into this book called the New Testament. However, in order for you to determine what is true and what is just straight up lie and falsehood, you have to know both sides of the coin. And as you go and you get a good grip of the whole of the Book of Remembrance, when you go on to the New Testament, you're going to start realizing, that's a lie. They stole that from this. And you'll be able to go through the book and see, oh, that's a lie. That's contrary to the Most High said. The Most High said this. And then you be able to go back in there and literally just strip this book apart and see that these are nothing but Roman lies. Not only that, what's going to be blatant and plain to you is that the very individuals that wrote this don't follow it, that wrote this New Testament. They don't follow any of it. And that's coming straight from the Roman Catholic Church. They have pedophilia galore, homosexuality galore. I'm a man. I'm not going to be in the midst of any man and not know that he is a homosexual. You can almost sense that from them. It's a disgusting thing. Now, this is what you've got. You've got these males, and these popes are in their 70s, some of them in their 80s. These are old men. You're going to come through this system for 30, 40 years, encountering all these priests. They're nothing but priests of this idol of theirs. And you're going to come through all of that, all these men you're dealing with, and you don't know these men are foul. You don't know that they're vile. You don't know that. You'll know that. A man will know that and wouldn't want no part of it. So watch these European nations. They're going to prove to you, the Most High is going to make them prove it to you, that they're liars and that they're hypocrites. You're going to see them pass laws to marry men and women marry women. You're seeing this. You're going to see them pass laws to marry goats and cows and laws to marry children. You already see they already got homosexuals reading to your children. What do they call them? Transgender and all this other nonsense. These people are going to prove to you who and what they really are. And they're hoping that the children of Israel go along with it. And I'm encouraging you to go into this book and read the Most High's law. That way you can separate yourselves from them. You already see where these nations are going. You're seeing the corruption in them. You're seeing a thing that you've not seen before. What you're seeing is this. All that the children of Israel has gone through, you're beginning to see it take a hold of these nations. Why? Because many of us who are the children of Israel, we understand exactly what the fix is for our circumstance. And that fix is to return back onto the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. He said clearly once we do this, he's going to take all of our curses and dump it upon the head of the heathen and all those who have oppressed us. He's going to feed them with their own blood. He's going to kill them. And he's going to drag them, just like he drug us. And they're going to see it. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. Absolutely nothing they can do to stop it. And there's nothing I'm going to do to stop it. I'm going to watch, because that's what they've done to us. So, you're seeing currently that the heathen, their pension funds are being robbed. Now, keep in mind that we're not robbing them. So, one of us rob a man on the corner store, mug a man, you're going to get 15 years. But when the heathen robs you of your entire life savings and your retirement, nothing happens to him. Absolutely nothing happens to him. They call it white collar crime. So what we're seeing now is that those who had a buffer zone between them and the children of Israel, the Most High has taken that buffer zone and he's removing it. And once that buffer zone is pulled out, then all of those who were above us, all of a sudden, they find themselves down in the basement with us, looking at us face to face, wondering how they got there. Because they have always felt they're above us and have treated us as such. Not only will they be able to look at us face to face, they will also look at us rise above them as we continue to turn to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. The things that they felt could not befall them, i.e. poverty, it's coming to them. As we have been hated in these nations, they also will be hated. You see, the children of Israel, some of us are woefully ignorant, don't like to read, don't want to do any research. That's some of us. Some of us are tired of what we're experiencing and we're seeking an out. And as we start to do these things, to seek an out, we start looking at the avenues of approaches that we've used in times past. Well, this didn't work, let's try this now, this didn't work. So we're kind of going through the procedures to see exactly and to find out exactly what the fix is, because we've been seeing these things for generations. And that's what this Book of Remembrance is allowing us to do. We're going through the checklist of what we have tried and what has not worked. And it's to the point to where we're willing to try just about anything. Now, as we continue to rise up and these nations begin to, the people of the nations, they're losing their pensions. You know, they were getting a certain amount of money. They're about to get notes saying, hey, look, that amount of money you used to get, well, you're not going to get that anymore. So all of their safety nets have been removed and is being removed every day. The Most High is going to break these idolaters, these nations, these governments, all of these governments, these European nations. Their government is an idolatrous government. That government is Catholicism, and its surrogates is Christianity. And they're all on the same chessboard. So the Most High is going to break them financially. You're seeing that right now. Losing the pensions, losing that boat you had, losing that nice house you got. Now you got to worry about how you're going to eat, how you're going to pay the rent. But the children of Israel, we've always had to worry about these things. How we're going to pay for the kids, how we're going to do this, how are we going to do that. We have always had to make a way with nothing. This is something that our enemies have not experienced before, and they're about to experience it. But it's not just them. The children of Israel is going to feel it too. However, we're built for it, and we will certainly be sustained during it if we are to turn to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. As long as we're in this thing, we're going to be protected for what there is to come, because the Most High has to humble these nations. He's going to break them from a financial perspective. He's going to break them militarily. They have no law. You already know that. They do not have the Most High's law. It was never given to them. And that's why it is fitting that they will teach you that there is no law and someone died for you. They have never known the Most High, so they couldn't teach it if they wanted to. So once we go into their track record and we look at them, see where this whole Christianity thing came from, see where this whole New Testament thing came from, compare this New Testament to what's called the Old Testament, and we see clearly that no one in here is a prophet in this New Testament. Ain't no prophet named Matthew. And whatever Matthew's espousing is contrary to what real prophets are espousing in this law. And so you start seeing the contradictions and the lies. And then you start looking at the very people and you're seeing the lies. And then as you start doing that, you have a decision to make. You turn to the Most High with your whole heart and your whole soul, and you walk in this law and save yourself, because you can't save anyone but you. Or you continue to pine away in these nations and die in this idolatrous mess called Christianity that has been nothing but a snare unto our people. We have more churches than anyone else. Most High never commanded us to build a church. We were never to go into a house of idol worship and make a vow or give an offering, a tithe, or anything. These things were to be done in one place, and that's in Jerusalem. That's when that third temple is built. So once you start understanding all of these things, then we start looking at these people with disgust. And right now, our people just want to be part of a winning team. And they're seeing our enemies winning. Some of us are woefully ignorant. Some of us are selling out on purpose. Some of us just, well, I want to win. I see these people winning. How can I get with them so I can win too? And you can do that for a time, but that's going to change. You're going to see the house of Israel start winning, because we're going to turn to the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. The lies of this New Testament is wearing off, and I hope you all can see that. You're going to see, instead of us crying, forgiving our enemies for killing our sons, we're going to want you dead. That's where we're going to get to. We're going to want justice for what you've done. We're not going to want a check. Your money will be no good to us. It's just a matter of time. Right now, you're killing our sons, and some of our people who have no idea of who they are, have no idea why their sons are being killed. They're settling for a check. They don't want justice. They want to get paid. This man can print this worthless money up as much as he wants. Doesn't bring your son back once someone has eliminated your seed. And our people is going to get to a point, as we start understanding who we are and who our enemies are, we're going to start looking at them with disgust and disdain. And we're going to start doing like our forefathers. We never hugged on a Philistine for nothing. All the enemies of Israel, the house of Israel took it to them. Took it to our enemies. We weren't praying for them, and we weren't hugging them at all. Moses killed a man. Didn't murder him, he killed him. Why? Well, that man was messing with an Israelite. So as we go back into this book, like I've said, there's a reason why they don't want us in this book, in the book of the laws and the prophets, because we start understanding who we really are and understanding how we're supposed to conduct ourselves. You're touching Israelites, you got problems. You got problems. There will be no hugging, there will be no forgiving. And if we return to this law, and the Most High strengthen us against you, you can just imagine we are very zealous about the Most High. A lot of us are doing it in ignorance and worshiping after idols. How do you think the people of the Most High would respond if they figured out that you lied to them for centuries, beating them up, They can, our people are forgiven. We can go by all of that. But once we realize that you have actually lied to us about who our God is and put yourself in the place of our God and told us all of these lies to lead us astray, do you know how our people will look at you? This love and fear that we have of our enemies, it's going to go away. It's wearing off. And it's going to wear off because the Most High is going to put his spirit upon us so we understand clearly who we are, clearly who he is, clearly who our enemies are. Not only that, he's going to make it plain to us what our enemies have done. And we are the battle axe of the Most High. So when he exacts his vengeance upon our enemies, guess who's going to be doing it? Yeah, children of Israel. And there will be no room for cowards. And there will be no room for those who are willing to hug our enemies. When the judgment goes out, we deal with them as the judgment states. It's not going to be no we hugging and we forgive you. No, it's not how it's going to go. So all the compassion that we have been giving our enemies, all of that is going to stop. Or we're going to run out of tears. It's already happening. So I will wrap this up. It's been 1 hour and 31 minutes. 2 books. Book of Remembrance, the Book of Truth, the book of Righteousness, the Book of the Creator, the Book of the Strong One of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, addressing his sons and daughters on their conduct, and should they walk contrary to his instruction, exactly what he would do to them, and after that punishment, how he will restore them back on high. That's what that first book's about. This back book is someone who he knows everybody, loves everybody. You can do what you want. Ain't no law. You can go to church just about any place. You're getting baptized, something no one's ever heard of. And everything else that's contrary to the Most High's law. Read them both. Look through them both. Study them both. That way when you make a decision, you are making that on knowledge acquired. Not on what someone told you. Not on what you heard. And I'll leave with this. Don't waste any time arguing with an idolater. Most High has cut them off. They can't see this. They don't have the discipline to walk in the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And they will hate to see you doing it. Some of our people so far, they get jealous because you know the book and they don't. That you're committed to the Most High and his word and they don't have it in them. So watch out, people. We are people with many enemies. But the worst of our enemies are the ones that look like us, that are very near to us, and in some cases dear to us. So be mindful of those individuals. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. In the front and out the back. In the front is all you need to know. You go on this back, you're going out the back. Everything that's in the back is what got us killed, is getting us killed, and got us kicked out. Everything that's in the front is what's going to get us restored back to where we were. Most High told us we would have a choice. Choose life and live. You got 2 books here. You have to make the decision which one of these books got life in it and which one of them got death in them. One got an idol in it. Most High said what he would do to us if we walked after idols. One got his laws in it, statutes, his judgments, and his precepts that he spoke to his prophet out of his own mouth. We heard his voice. We didn't have to get no third party to give us this information. So here it is, Israel. I'm going to present this to you. You choose life or death. You have to determine which one of these books has life in them, which one of them has truth in them, which one of them has the righteousness of the Most High in them, and which one of them does not. Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. That's a closer look at this book called the Bible. Ain't but one book in here that matters. That's the Book of Remembrance. but we had to be given both of them. That way you can make a choice. And you cannot make a choice unless you have the power of discernment. And the only way that you're going to be able to discern one from the other, it requires knowledge, it requires study, it requires a diligent search. Not going to cost you any money, it's going to cost you some time. Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Once again, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Peace, Israel.